7:06 on CJAD 800. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur, presented by Fuller Landau, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with Josh Miller of Fuller Landau. How are you this week, Josh?
Excellent.
Now, we have a great show. I'm very excited because as a young entrepreneur myself, I always look to be inspired by others, and tonight's our first theme show on young entrepreneurs.
And I like to think of myself as a young entrepreneur, even though I'm probably the oldest one in the room. But absolutely, tonight's show is going to be rather different than the others. There's going to be similar themes and similar questions, but the reality is we have two guys in the studio, and three including yourself, Dan, that have created experiences for themselves that have gone into their own business as owners, below 30, and we're going to kind of hear how they've gone through there, how they started up, what they're learning, what they would have done a little differently had they had the knowledge today back a few years. So before we get started, as we usually do, we should still learn what these two guys do in their respective businesses. So together we welcome Dan Smajovits and Vinny Success. And I guess we'll turn to Dan first and say, Dan of your Pi Athlete Management, tell us a little bit about what your business is.
Well, my business is a sports agency and family advising firm. We represent professional athletes in football, baseball, hockey, basketball, and we advise amateur athletes and their families, hopefully with the ultimate goal of having them get an education.
Excellent. And Vinny, Success Clothing. Tell us a little bit about what that does.
Basically, I'm a designer, and I started my own clothing line. It's a skatewear, streetwear brand, and I import and wholesale to the stores here in Canada-wide and a bit overseas also.
Now, you guys, you obviously started a few years ago, but not too long ago. What brought you into your respective businesses? Vinny, what brought you into this business? Where was your background?
My background is more into graphic design. I was a designer. I used to work in advertising, and I never thought I was going to be in this field. I've always been in love with clothing and fashion, but it was more like an accident. I started making T-shirts to promote my web design aspect of my business, and then the whole T-shirt line picked up, but no one ever called me to get web design done. So I guess it just went organically towards the fashion, and I ended up doing no designs at all now and all fashion now.
But you realized that was the better business opportunity.
Well, it's more what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a designer, but not just graphic designer. I like stuff that you can touch, you can feel, and clothing is a perfect platform for me because people can wear it and you can actually touch and feel it. And it's more like a canvas that people walk around on their chest. And I think it's really what was different than doing prints or branding other businesses that you don't get that. I don't know how to say it, but you can really touch and feel it.
And Dan, Pi Athlete Management, how did you get into this or start this up?
Well, once upon a time, I actually spent more time in a radio booth as a journalist than I did in hockey rinks. But I've been working in professional sports for about 10 years. I started off working in the CFL, then I went down to Tampa and worked in the NFL, then worked for the Canadians, and about almost going on 4 years, I was approached by my savvy business partner who brings the gray hair to the operation, and he had always the dream of working in professional sports, and I brought the practical experience, he brought some of the business savvy, and together we built this thing up from the ground.
One of the things that, we look at you and you look at, I presume, all your suppliers and customers and your youthful appearances. Let's talk a little bit about respect. How did you gain respect, or did you have to really bust your butt to get others to respect you and for what you were able to offer?
I think at first respect is hard to come by when you're a young guy walking into a ring trying to approach a family. But when they talk to you and they realize that, wow, this kid worked in the NFL, he worked in the NHL, the CFL, the QMJHL, they realize that he knows what he's talking about, and it's someone that they might want to listen to.
Now, the fact that you had a partner with you, I was about to say elderly, a partner with a little bit more maturity, did that help sell your ability to your customers?
It definitely did. When talking about education, he is a CA, but he was also a licensed teacher. I think he taught from kindergarten to graduate school. So when you're speaking about college, NCAA, he had all the answers and he knew where to guide the families. Being the father of two as well, you know that his intentions were legitimate.
And Vinny, do you have any influences like that? Someone that's helped guide you over the years, someone with more experience?
In my clothing business, I think the retailers have a good relationship with my retailers, and they show me a little bit of how this business is doing and all that. I think on the wholesale point of view, I kind of learned it on the way of doing there. I have a few friends who are sales rep here and there. They kind of show me when I started how this business works, how the calendar works, but I think from generally speaking, I really learned while I was doing it. And
it's truly a cutthroat business. I mean, to be in the clothing, the wholesaling clothing and building a brand, was it difficult for people to respect your ability and what you could offer them?
I think at first, while I was working for other people, I didn't feel respected. I would get very low wage. They would make me work overtime, make me wash the refrigerator, take out the trashes and all that. And at one point, I remember, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be on my own. Then I got out of this circle. It's a little bit harder when you first start to get respected, especially of what I look. I am.
It's radio. It's okay.
Yeah, people don't see me, but I am the sneaker wearing baggy jeans guy and the toque and hats wearing guy. But in this business, I think over 7 years, I proved that I did what a lot of people wish they could do, and I've set the place where it's pretty solid right now. So the people in the industry, they respect what I've built. But when you don't know me, and then sometimes I go to the bank and they don't even know that it's my bank account, and they ask me for IDs,
I was going to ask you, did you have an experience where you walked into a bank for financing and they look at you and kind of not sure what they should do?
It happens to me every day, because of what I look. I wear what I sell. I sell stuff to the kids, to the skateboard and snowboard industry. So it's sometimes hard to get taken seriously by other people. And happens to me on an everyday basis, whether I go to buy a car or to go to the bank or whatever. But this is the type of stuff that motivates me to outperform myself and then just prove all these people that success is the best revenge. And it happened to me every day just this week. I went to buy a car, the dealer didn't take me seriously. I left and went to buy a car at the dealer next door, So this is the stuff that really pushes me forward.
Did you go back to the other dealer and say, ha?
No, but I'll probably go back and then show them my new car.
Dan, same question to you. Do you find that at times you haven't been taken seriously, particularly in your business? It's very competitive. You have international conglomerates that are in the same business as you are. How do you sort of wedge yourself in there?
Well, I think as Josh mentioned with the word cutthroat, it's an agency is something that everybody wants to get into it, and every athlete wants to be represented, but they want to be represented by the best. And they all think that there's a Jerry Maguire out there that'll represent them, and we're trying to forge our own way into this by relationships, and we've lost some clients to some really big firms out there. We've also stolen some clients from some big firms just because personal relationships. They've heard about us from friends and from teammates, and they like what we do, they like how we work. And I respect a lot of agents out there because there are a lot of really good guys, but there are also a lot of guys out there that will go in the back door and do some shady things.
And Dan, there's so much that can be learned by you guys in Under 30 and your perseverance. I mean, there's many areas that we're going to cover. We've covered a little bit of respect. We're going to look at who you guys look up to as far as mentors go, a little bit how you kind of operate your business with pricing. And I think there's so much can be learned by the initiative and intuitiveness of you, even with maybe a few less years of experience and a few less years of gray hair. I'm looking forward to continuing that conversation in a moment.
720 on CJAD 800, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you on today's Entrepreneur. And for our Entrepreneurs Under 30 special, Dan Smajovits is with us of Pi Athlete Management and Vinny Success of Success Clothing. And Josh, shall we get into outside mentors? Let's put it that way.
I would think advisors. I mean, when you're coming out of school, you're so young. I mean, people have advisors and mentors throughout their entire experience, but I would look to the two of them and say, at your, at the youthful age, there's probably a good one or two people that you really rely on to bounce ideas or kind of, just say, am I going in the right direction? And I don't know, Vinny, perhaps you can start. Who's your mentor or advisor that you use?
Well, when I need advice, I think I don't want to go in my own business to reach out to these people because I don't want them to know too much about my business. So I go within my own family but they don't really know my business. So it's more like a general advice kind of a relationship. My dad helps me a little bit. But when I really need inspiration and stuff like that, I look up to what other big brands owners are doing. But in this business right now, it's a bit tough because the clothing business in Montreal, especially in the skatewear, is very tough, and people are not always nice to each other. So it's not the right people to go and ask tips for sometimes. But some of them are very helpful, and when I think right now, I try to stay within my own family.
Excellent. Daniel?
I would reach out to my network, and especially, working across so many different sports, different platforms. I've met a lot of different athletes and a lot of former colleagues who have experienced many more situations than I have to this point. So I would send them a message, give them a call, and in fact, former athletes is what inspired me to get into the business because they told me bluntly where their agents screwed up and where they didn't like their agents, and I thought I can correct that. I don't know how come he didn't see that, but I could do it differently, and that's what got me going.
Vinny, you quickly mentioned competition before and kind of keep tabs, and that gives you inspiration. Do you really look at your competition on a daily basis, see what they're doing, try to do something a little bit different? How much does your competition affect how you operate?
I'd say my big competitors are not local, so most of them are from, let's say, California and New York. And of course, I always look up what they're doing on a daily basis. They post a lot on their Twitters, Instagram, and everything. And it's funny because this weekend I had the chance to meet the guy that I look up to. His name is Nicky Diamonds, the owner of Diamond Supply Co. And it's the biggest skatewear brand in the world right now. And I had to ask him a few questions about how to grow my business, and he gave me some really good tips. And right now, the competition locally, I compete with the U.S. market more than the local market right now.
And interested to hear what Dan has to say about Pi Athlete Management. When we come back from the break, we'll hear what his competition has.
Today's Entrepreneur on CJAD, 723. 726 on CJAD. We're back for our Entrepreneurs Under 30 special. Dan Smajovits of Pi Athlete Management and Vinny Success of Success Clothing. We're talking about Vinny with regards to his competition. And Dan, let's throw that over to you. How do you deal with competition in an industry that's particularly cutthroat?
Very cutthroat, and we deal with it by being a little bit different. What we offer to our families is relationships, and we firmly believe that if we're building a strong relationship with the parents and the athlete, we're talking amateur athletes as well as with the professional athlete, just befriending them, it really gives us a leg up on the competition because they see us not as someone they're working for or working with, but they see us as a friend. And our firm also, we try and do it a little bit differently. We have the in-house accounting, in-house legal team. Other agencies farm it out, but truth of the matter is the competition is everywhere. I go to a rink on the weekends. I see a dozen agents lining up to see 13-year-old kids. It's a little bit, I forgot the word.
Suspect.
Suspect. That's a good word.
You say a very interesting word, relationships. Some people don't get that. Some people just don't get that concept so early in their entrepreneurial career. It sounds like you get it. That's an important factor.
It's very important because, I look at these athletes. I mean, I'm 28 years old, so a lot of them are my age. And a lot of them, the younger ones, you try to develop a relationship with them because you want them to look up to you. You want to work with them. You want to grow with them for many more years. If you don't have that relationship, then you're like other agents out there who treat their clients, for lack of a better term, like a piece of meat. And I don't want that. I want them to look at me and they want to trust me because coming into this thing, they don't trust me. I don't trust them, but you want to grow together.
Vinny, we say the word relationship. What does that mean to you?
Relationships is everything. Without network, without relationships, I'm just a guy printing T-shirts in his basement. And when I started, I knew that was the key to open doors. I don't know if I should say this because I feel like a creep, but I would look on Facebook where the store owners would go, and I would just appear and then be like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" I'm here. I'm the guy from Success. And then doing it's like lobbying. Did that for like 2 years. Started to getting know people. And then when I go and meet them finally to present my line, it's like, oh yeah, you're that creeper from 2 years ago, you know?
It's just pounding the pavement like everybody used to do.
Yeah, but it works.
It absolutely works. One thing, it's all about service and you have your relationships. But I have no doubt that when we're talking competition and people are looking at both you and your business's competition, pricing has got to come into play. How did you determine pricing when you first got into this business, Vinny?
Well, my strategy was to mark up about 10-15% lower than the competitors, but offer a greater quality product. So at the end of the day, I'm making less margins on the products, but I offer a client a better product for less, which makes them happier, especially the moms happier, because a lot of my clientele is young. They shop with their moms, and it's really based on volume. So let's say a sweatshirt usually sells for $70-$80. I give a really, really good sweatshirt for $60, and then people like it.
Excellent. Daniel, quickly, what are your thoughts on pricing?
Pricing in the industry, some agents charge a flat fee for certain services, some a commission, and it's pretty much standard throughout. So we really couldn't be too high or too low, but we didn't want to devalue our brand by, charging 50% less because, we're offering, we feel, and we know is a superior service because we're working harder for them. Excellent.
And when we come back after the breakdown, 2 young guys in Montreal. Why Montreal? Why do they stay here?
Great question, Josh. It's 7:36. Welcome back to Today's Entrepreneur, presented by Fuller Landau, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with Fuller Landau's Josh Miller, and it's a special tonight, Entrepreneurs Under 30, and with us in studio, Dan Smajovits of Pi Athlete Management and Vinny Success of Success Clothing.
And I can hear all the entrepreneurs out there and all the parents of young entrepreneurs saying, well, guys, is schooling important? Nobody's going to run out of school just to go start their own business. Maybe yes, maybe no. But I'll turn to you guys, maybe Daniel first, and say, how important was schooling for you and your choice of business?
I think schooling is vitally important. That's why I preach it to a lot of, or the majority of the athletes, because, you want to present yourself in the proper manner, and you learn how to do that by education, by educating yourself. And I'm a journalist by trade. I have a journalism degree, so you don't have to be a lawyer or an accountant to become an agent, but you do have to know how to comport yourself properly and how to act in a professional manner, and I learned that in school.
You got to know how to talk.
Exactly.
So that people listen and people trust you.
Yeah, like I hope you'll listen now.
Exactly. Vinny, how about you? Was school important for what you're doing today?
I think the school was very important. I studied graphic design in Hansik College, which taught me the power of branding, the power of a logo. And then I went to did communication at UQAM after, which taught me how to really spread my message properly. I'm working fashion today in business. I didn't go to fashion and business school, but these schools kind of turned my way around, and I ended up here. And I don't think I would be here without that schooling.
Speaking of here, and you mentioned this earlier, Josh, this is the only political-ish question of the night, but why stay in Montreal? Because so many young entrepreneurs, either go to Toronto or go elsewhere for lack of opportunity. Why did you guys decide to stay here? Dan?
Well, simple reason. The love of my life, Lauren, lives in Montreal, so I had to stay here.
All right, good reason.
But more seriously, you don't find many hockey players in Florida, although I'd love to be by the beach. We live in Montreal. Hockey is the bread and butter around here, so if I want to start a successful business, I got to do it where the players are and where the athletes are.
And Vinny?
I think as I understand the Quebec market very well, I understand what people are looking for. We have a very particular scene because of skateboard and snowboard, and especially because of the rent here is much lower than in the U.S., so people can afford much bigger stores, which for me gives me much bigger sections also. So the stores that I sell to now, compared to some boutiques in the U.S., are like Walmarts compared to these stores. So it's very hard outside of Quebec to have these kinds of surfaces also.
Now, starting a business is a lot of people that, entrepreneurs that have to figure out how to manage their cash flow. They're starting up, they're trying to make ends meet. They may or may not take a salary at the beginning. Was cash flow, or learning to manage your cash flow, an important aspect when you started your business, Daniel?
Yeah, I would say it definitely was. When we first sat down to map out our first year, we thought, well, great, we have a professional athlete playing in Italy. Let's go visit him twice during the season. But we realized that just wasn't worth it for us, or we couldn't afford to fly out there twice. So you have to manage your expectations, realize what you have to do, and invest your money, put your money in the proper places to grow your business long term.
Vinny?
Yeah, it was very difficult. I've been in business for 7 years. I think the first 2 years I made no money, so I had to work elsewhere and to put that cash flow back inside the company. And then the two next years was starting to break even and stuff, and I would be just stupid with my cash and get a big paycheck and go buy a TV. And then after that I started getting mature and then started working better with my cash and reinvested smartly in the company.
Did you guys ever hit a point where you said, maybe it's not worth it? Maybe I should find something else to do? Maybe you didn't. I don't know. Vinny?
I did. There was a point after between my third and fourth year, I couldn't handle it more. Wasn't making any money. I was branding other people's project to feed mine that doesn't make money. I applied to 2 jobs. Maybe I should not name them, but I applied at Nike to be a sales rep, and I applied at CJAD, and I got refused for both because they thought I was asking for too much. And I'm like, it's not even that much. And I realized, okay, I'm not meant to be working for other people if you don't even want to offer me this salary. And then I just kept going, and then today is like it was the best decision I've ever made.
Daniel, ever hit a point where you thought maybe you got to do something else, or at least not on your own?
There are a lot of ups and downs in the industry. A lot of athletes will leave you, they'll fire you, and they'll hire you the next day. But there were some times that I did doubt myself. But in the end, when you tell an athlete, oh, we just got you a job overseas, or we got you into the school you really wanted to go to, that makes it all worth it. So, it's worth it for those ups.
And as you think back over the last few years since you started, with the knowledge you have today, which is certainly more than the beginning, is there any major lesson or something you would have done totally differently thinking back?
Yeah, I think I try to impart a little too much of myself in my clients. I try to push them towards the States, go to NCAA, get yourself a degree, because you have something to fall back on for after hockey. And I still firmly believe in that for everybody. But I realized my marketing in Quebec, a lot of the players wanted to turn professional at age 16, 17, play major junior hockey, which of course makes them ineligible for the States. So I should have catered more to their needs and to what they wanted. And that probably would have given me a little bit more of an edge today. But I'm growing, and we're building that side of the business.
Lessons always still to be learned. Vinny, how about you? Is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, this weekend, like I said, I met Nicky Diamond, and I asked him for advice. He told me, you got to understand this business. And I wish I understood this business within the first 3 years better, meaning that when you start a clothing line, you think, I'm going to make 12 T-shirts of each color, each size, and then try to sell it after. Which in reality, what people do is they pre-book, and then I'm going to go into the store, I'm going to sell it first, and then after that you produce it. Then you get stuck with no inventory after. And I understood that after only like 4 or 5 years, and then it really changed my whole perspective on this industry.
Back to the lessons of cash flow that we spoke about earlier. Now let's switch gears a little bit. Marketing. Now you guys have very different products and services. What's worked best for you from a marketing standpoint? Or maybe what's worked the least well? Dan?
The thing that works best is word of mouth. You can't be happier when you get a call from a parent saying, we heard your name from somebody else, you got their kid into school, he's a professional athlete, you got him a gig overseas, now do the same thing for us. And that's the best way to go about it. We have a Twitter account, we have a website, but the truth of the matter is they hear the story from us, they hear it from other people. That's what counts.
And you have a partner. Do you guys, agree on how you market your service or product? You are 2 different generations.
We're very different, but we do agree, just because he realizes the importance of the referrals, the importance of other people referencing us to other clients, to hopefully prospective clients. While he does follow us on Twitter, he's not an active tweeter, and I don't think he has Facebook, but maybe one day we'll get him on board.
Soon enough. How about you, Vinny? From a marketing standpoint, what's worked for you?
Well, my clientele are a bit younger. They're really into social media, so I really use social media to my best advantage. And I think what I do is I engage conversations with them. Instead of a newspaper, you just read the news. I'd rather start topics and ask them questions. They answer, I reply, and they really feel engaged in this brand. And sometimes, I think last season, I asked them which color do we want to see for fall, and they picked burgundy. We made burgundy this season, and it's just fast selling. So I really like to touch the people with my story and then talk to them directly.
Excellent, thank you. Dan, certainly social media is what I expected to hear from them, and I think when we come back, and it's been great stories and we learned so much. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about social media and marketing.
Yes, communications expert Stephanie Darsh will be here from Fuller Landau, so we'll talk more about marketing online and Facebook and Twitter. 7:50, welcome back to today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you. It's our Young Entrepreneur Special, Entrepreneurs Under 30 with Dan Smajovits of Pi Athlete Management, Vinny Success of Success Clothing, and we also bring into the conversation Stephanie Darsh of Fuller Landau, also young, and we're going to talk about the web marketing aspect.
Just reminding me how old I am around this table.
Sorry, you're still the senior member of the group so far. So let's talk a bit about marketing, and particularly marketing online.
I wanted to talk about Twitter specifically today, and I know that's spoken about a lot, but in a conversation with Daniel before the interview today, we talked about Twitter and how he uses it, and it kind of sparked a lot of ideas, and then I found this really great report on branding and Twitter and what Twitter really does for brands and how brands can make the most of Twitter.
And is it difficult? I mean, can people easily get on Twitter? Are there any rules you should follow, content or otherwise?
Yes, good question. There's a few, not rules, but I think that first, the study that I talked about comes from Salesforce.com, and it was released about 8 months ago. And it spoke about how, of all of the social media platforms out there, Twitter isn't so much a tool for conversation, because you always hear, join the conversation, hashtag CJAD or hashtag Fuller Landau. But Twitter for brands is really a way to amplify your brand, since 78% of engagement for Twitter on brands is retweets, which is, we know what retweets are when we click the button and it sends it to all your other followers.
So what are you trying to say? It's one big pyramid scheme?
It's, yes, get in on top or you're going to pay a lot of money. No, I guess it's more of a way for your name to get out there to many people. And what's interesting is when to tweet versus Facebook or LinkedIn or anything is different. And this goes against everything I ever thought. And I actually learned something today. And I often think that I know things, but I learned something today that for Twitter, regardless of industry, weekends are the best time to tweet. And it's a 17% increase if you tweet on the weekend. For fashion, actually, if you tweet on a Wednesday or a Thursday, it's almost bad for you. But if you tweet on a weekend, it's way better. And the idea is, I think people are out there shopping and thinking about their brands. But for sports, weekend, yes. And then Mondays, because people want to talk about the games on the weekend.
Monday Night Football.
Makes sense.
Exactly. So something I learned a little bit today.
Our guests, Dan Smajovits of Pi Athlete Management, Vinny Success of Success Clothing. It's our Young Entrepreneur Special. And Stephanie Darwish is here from Fuller Landau to talk about social media and marketing. And we're focusing on Twitter, which I think is the most effective social network, in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes I don't feel that way, but then I get back into it. Like I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter because it is I find the most involved network to be on, because the timeline is by time and not by engagement, so you have to constantly be in it, and I constantly have the alerts, and sometimes I just have to close everything because I can't get anything done.
So for an entrepreneur, they really need somebody, if they don't have time to do it themselves and they really want to tweet their business, they got to have somebody dedicated to it.
Yes, or they have to make it part of their day-to-day lives. Like phones obviously help the situation immensely because you can do it wherever you are. And another interesting thing is, while it's important to stay engaged and everything, there is an inverse relationship between how many tweets you do a day and engagement. So the optimal time is like 2 to 4 tweets a day max, with 1 being the best. But anything above 4 tweets, you actually are in a decline, and it's actually bad for your brand, which I think we all assumed, but interesting to see the number about it.
Because people just get annoyed with the constant...
It's too much. Like, okay, we know.
So what about content? Is the type of content important for Twitter?
Apparently so, like anything. A tweet with a link in it or with an image link in it always has higher engagements. Tweets with hashtags, but not too many hashtags, because you don't want to be a teenager or or whatever. So keep your hashtags to 1 or 2. And then you can actually ask for retweets, and apparently only 1% of brands do that. But if you ask for the retweet and actually spell out RETWEET, then people do it, and it helps your brand.
Vinny, does it take up a lot of time when you're tweeting or Facebooking? Do you find that that's eating up time that you would otherwise spend elsewhere?
Well, people who know me are gonna tell you Vinny is always on his phone, always updating this and that, and it is time consuming, but it is part of my recipe, and I want to keep my people updated and engaged with everything that's going on. It's like just yesterday I tweeted a pic of, hey, I ran into this girl across the street wearing a T-shirt. And well, of course, she was hot, and then I don't know, but the engagement went super viral because of it was random. She was good looking, and the shirt was there. So it's just part of what I do on an everyday basis.
So keeping that in mind, and as we come down to the last minute or so of the show, kind of look to you guys to in your youthful experience, but very important experience. What one piece of advice would you give to today's entrepreneur, Daniel?
Well, if I can give a couple, the first thing is that I'm a journalist, a PR professional, an agent. I've reinvented myself a couple times, and you shouldn't be afraid to have new experiences and learn new things, because it can only help you out further in life. And, just going on what Vinny said, sometimes a little bit is too much, because I was in Peru in the summer and I was on my phone constantly, and you can put the phone down. You can tell a client, I will get back to you later. I like to give 24/7 service, but sometimes if it's 23/7 or 22/7, it's okay.
Vinny?
My advice would be, I think network is everything. What made my dream possible is because I met a lot of people who could help me go forward. I met a lot of store owners. I met a lot of brands, and I think network is more than half of my business, because otherwise, like I said, I would be just the guy printing shirts in his basement and then selling to no one. So I think networking, and being a stalker and try to meet people where they go out. Not too creepy, but still a good method to do it.
A targeted entrepreneurial stalker. It's very different. Dan, the quick takeaway I get from this and just listening to the two guys is they're just genuine. And be true to yourself. It's kind of a little corny, but they are exactly who they are. They're not fake. They don't pretend to be somebody else with other people. They just believe what they do. They're genuine, and that's what comes off well. And that's where I think the trust factor develops between all the people that are around them.
Like many entrepreneurs, I feel like they envisioned their best case scenario and just went after it.
Yep.
And so congrats to you guys, Dan Smajovits of Pi Athlete Management and Vinny Success of Success Clothing. Thanks very much, guys. Stephanie Dowers, thank you.
Thank you.
And Josh, we're back in 2 weeks' time.